Hello, everyone. This is Eleanor Rigby. I'm sitting here today in my favorite velvet armchair, the one with the worn out armrests, where I've rested my hands for nearly 30 years. In my lap, I'm holding a small chipped porcelain figurine of a bluebird. It doesn't look like much. It's missing a wing and the paint has faded to a dull gray. But this little bird has survived 4 moves, 2 floods, and a house fire. Looking at it today, I realize that I am a lot like this bird. I've lost a few feathers along the way, and I'm certainly not as bright as I used to be, but I'm still here. I'm 94 years old. If you had asked me back in 99974 if I'd make it this far, I would have laughed in your face. Back then, I was carrying so much weight on my shoulders that I thought my heart would simply give out from the strain of it all. If I hadn't learned to let go of the things that were poisoning my spirit, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. I would have lost my health, my marriage, and my mind a long time ago. Before I tell you this story, please subscribe. I want to pass this wisdom down before I'm gone, so you don't make the same mistakes I did. I want these words to live on in you. You know, people always ask me what the secret is. They see me walking down to the mailbox or tending to my roses, and they think I must have some magic tonic or a special diet. But the truth is much simpler and much harder than that. My longevity didn't come from what I added to my life. It came from what I finally had the courage to subtract. When I turned 60, I hit a wall. I remember it was a Tuesday in October of 1992. I was standing in my kitchen, staring at a pile of dishes, and I just started crying. My late husband, Thomas, bless his stubborn soul, came in and asked what was wrong. I looked at him and said, "Thomas, I'm tired of carrying the world." He didn't understand then, and frankly, I didn't quite understand it either. I just knew that if I kept living the way I had been for the first 6 decades of my life, I wouldn't see 70. The first thing I had to let go of was the need to be right. Oh, I was a terror about that in my younger years. When Thomas and I were first married in 1951, I thought every argument was a legal case I had to win. I remember one specific fight we had in the summer of '68. It was about something as silly as which route to take to the lake. I yelled, he slammed the door, and we didn't speak for 3 days, 3 days of silence in the small house. Think about that. What a waste of breath. When I turned 60, I realized that being right is a lonely victory. I started asking myself, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? I chose happy. I let go of the pride that made me dig my heels in. I started saying, maybe you're right, dear, even when I wasn't sure he was. And you know what? The house got a lot quieter, and my heart got a lot lighter. Then I had to let go of the what-ifs. I spent so much of the 1980s worrying about things that never happened. I worried about the kids. I worried about the economy. I worried about whether we'd have enough to retire. I can still hear the sound of the grandfather clock in the hallway ticking while I laid awake at 3 a.m., playing out disasters in my head. Experience has taught me that worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. After 60, I decided that if a problem didn't have a solution I could enact right that second, it didn't deserve a seat at my table. I stopped rehearsing tragedies that hadn't happened yet. I promise you, most of the things you fear will never come to pass, and the things that do happen, you'll find the strength to handle when they arrive. I also had to let go of the grudges I was nursing. I had a sister, Martha, whom I didn't speak to for 15 years, over a comment she made at our mother's funeral. 15 years of birthdays and Christmases missed because of a few sharp words. In all my 94 years, I've learned that holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. When I hit 60, I looked at the calendar and realized I had more years behind me than in front of me. I called her. It was awkward at first. My voice trembled so hard I could barely get the words out. But we cried, we laughed, and we had 10 beautiful years together before she passed. If I hadn't let go of that bitterness, I would be sitting here today with nothing but regret. The fourth thing was the most difficult, and that was letting go of the need to control my children. My daughter Sarah didn't live her life the way I thought she should. In the late 70s and early 80s, we clashed constantly. I wanted her to be safe, to be traditional, to be what I understood. But when I turned 60, I realized she wasn't an extension of me. She was her own woman. I had to let go of the blueprint I had drawn for her life. I told her, I don't have to understand your choices to love you through them. That changed everything. Our relationship bloomed because I stopped trying to be the conductor of her orchestra. Young people today might not understand this, but your parents' hovering comes from a place of deep, terrifying love. But love shouldn't be a cage. I also let go of the clutter, not just the stuff in my attic, but the clutter of obligations. I spent years saying yes to every committee, every bake sale, and every social invitation because I didn't want people to think I was lazy or unkind. By 60, I was exhausted. I started saying no. I realized that my time was a currency I had to spend wisely. I stopped going to things that drained my spirit. I started sitting on my porch and just watching the birds. People might call it withdrawing, but I call it protecting my peace. Sixth, I let go of the shame of my past mistakes. We all have things we aren't proud of. I remember a time in the 50s when I wasn't the wife I should have been. I was cold, I was distant, and I almost walked away. For years, I carried that guilt like a stone in my pocket. But at 60, I decided to forgive myself. I told myself, Eleanor, you were doing the best you could with the tools you had at the time. You have to be gentle with yourself. You can't build a future if you're still living in a house of should-haves. Lastly, I let go of the fear of aging. It sounds strange, doesn't it? But once I accepted that my body was changing, that the wrinkles were just maps of where I'd been, and the gray hair was a badge of honor. I stopped fighting the clock. I stopped buying the expensive creams that promised to turn back time. I started enjoying the time I actually had. You have to understand that love and life aren't about holding on tight. They're about knowing when to open your hand. Modern life moves so fast and everyone is so focused on acquiring more, doing more, and being more. But the secret to reaching 94 isn't in the hustle. It's in the stillness. It's in the decision to be loyal to your own peace. Marriage survived back in my day because we didn't have an exit button the moment things got uncomfortable. Thomas and I had years where we didn't particularly like each other, but we loved each other enough to stay in the room until the weather cleared. We sacrificed our egos for the sake of the we. Love isn't a feeling you have, it's a decision you make every morning when you wake up and see that same face on the pillow. It's the decision to let go of the annoyance of his snoring or the way she leaves her shoes in the hall. It's choosing the person over the problem. I see young couples today give up so easily because they think a better, easier version of love is just a click away. But there is no easy love. The most beautiful gardens are the ones that have been weeded, pruned, and watered through the droughts. In all my years, I've found that the things that matter at the end are very few. It's not the house, it's not the bank account, and it's certainly not being right in an argument from 1968. It's the hand you're holding. It's the memories that make you smile when you're all alone. I want you to take a deep breath right now. Feel your lungs fill up. That is a gift. Don't waste it carrying around bags that don't belong to you. Let go of the anger. Let go of the perfectionism. Let go of the need to please everyone but yourself. I've lived through the Great Depression, a world war, the loss of my husband, and the changing of a century. I've seen the world turn upside down a dozen times, and through it all, the only thing that kept me standing was the ability to shed what was heavy. When you let go of the weight, you find that you can actually fly, even with a chipped wing like my little bluebird here. I hope you choose to lighten your load today. I hope you find the grace to forgive yourself and the courage to be happy with exactly who you are. Life is so very short, even when it lasts nearly 100 years. It goes by in the blink of an eye, like a summer afternoon that fades into dusk before you've even had your tea. Thanks for listening to An Old Soul. Subscribe, share this with someone you love, and cherish them while they are here. I'll be here in my chair, enjoying the quiet. I hope you find yours, too. Would you like me to develop a specific scene from Eleanor's life in the 1950s or 70s to add even more detail to this narrative?